Where retention-wise, do you know what retention levels are kind of on a monthly basis or attrition rates are?
So at the moment, we are 98%.
This week, we're joined by John and Emily Saxby, owner of Go Fitness in Lewes in East Sussex. In this episode, we dive into how they've gone from outdoor boot camp to thriving small group personal training business with a team of 4.
Oh, what's the big goal? Okay, by end of the year, this is the big goal. And it's even more exciting if you're at the end of the quarter and then you're further ahead. You're like, oh, that big goal is actually well within our grasp.
Mistakes they made with their first gym that you should avoid. How John and Emily managed their personal relationship along with their working relationship.
It's always about finding boundaries, trying to keep those boundaries. We might set boundaries, then we forget about those boundaries. It's a learning curve.
It's hard because...
And how they dominate the local marketplace with both local and online marketing standing out as the authority in their area. We hope you enjoy the episode. John, Emily, welcome to the FMA podcast. Now, you guys have been clients, I think, since around 2020. Is that correct?
Yeah, since that first lockdown.
Yeah, because it was just before lockdown, wasn't it?
It was. So we had kind of realised that the first thing that was going to happen was outdoor boot camps.
Yeah.
In whatever capacity that the government...
So you came to us during that period of 2020 and you didn't have a fitness... And before we kind of dive into the story, let's just do a quick overview of where you guys are at now. So if you could do name the business, where you're based and the model, that'd be really, really great.
So we're Go Fitness. We're based in Lewes and we are a small group personal training studio. Specialising in strength training for people in their 40s, 50s, 60s and even 70s.
Amazing. And how many people is it per session?
So it's 8 maximum with 2 coaches, so it's 1-to-4 ratio.
Nice, amazing. And what's the average kind of price point if I was to sign up or average price what a member pays?
So our average price point is £214 a month. But, it can go anywhere up to sort of 300 plus, depending
on what they do there. And how many members are you guys serving currently at the moment?
We've got 138 at the moment.
Okay, amazing, nice. Now let's circle back to the kind of beginning of your journey within the fitness industry and how you ended up at this small group personal training gym. Also, actually, what's the size of the space that you guys have?
So it's 1,200 square foot.
Nice.
With sort of split between the ground floor and a mezzanine.
Yeah, amazing. And obviously, as you were saying, you guys started off as a boot camp, and that was inspired by what was happening during that time in 2020, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't called Go Fitness. It was something slightly different.
We named it Go Obstacle, and that was based on our sort of passion back in the day for obstacle racing. And we thought, well, let's launch this boot camp where we can create these super fun workouts and get people fit and race ready for obstacle racing.
Nice. And you did build it up to a certain client base before you decided to move on, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think some of the members that were coming because of that. I think others were coming because of obviously the marketing message that we were giving with FMA obviously brought in that particular type of client as well. So it was kind of a mixed bag to begin with, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's quite interesting actually because the name Go Obstacle you would think would put quite a lot of people off in terms of like beginners to fitness, but actually we launched the boot camps right from the start with FMA and the FMA advertising we did all to beginners and people wanting to get back into their fitness after lockdown. And the name didn't actually put that many people off, which I found fascinating. But we did get this mixed bag of like people who were starting from the very beginning, kind of wanting to lose weight, and then people who just loved training outside and wanted some diversity in terms of their training.
Yeah, so it was that unique combination, right? Because outdoor boot camp was really one of the only options at the time. People who wanted to be serviced for things like weight loss or general fitness would come along. But then also you had some people that were interested in that side of things there as well.
Yeah.
And then you built that up, but you were also simultaneously looking for your first space at the same time. Is that correct?
I would say probably 6 months into the boot camps maybe, or after our first winter.
Yeah.
I think it was after that first winter of being outside for
Yeah.
5 hours in the snow in Stanley Park.
Yeah.
It's there's pros and cons to an outdoor boot camp. One is there's quite low expenses, but then two, there's the kind of volatile revenue that happens, during those winter and summer months. Well, summer it will go up, and winter it will go down drastically. And there's not a lot of people that just want to be out at 6 a.m. in the rain, in the snow,
in the
dark, training, right? But there's some people that like it, but there's a lot of pros and cons. So was that part of the inspiration to go to your first location?
I think it was part of the inspiration, and I think myself and John, we just love gym workouts. We love strength, and that's really where our passion lies. And we loved the obstacle niche side of things, but I think we really felt that after doing that for a while, we wanted to go back to our roots, and strength was really where it was at. And we tried to bring that into the boot camps, and we got our members up to incredible new strengths, and to the point where we just we were struggling on how to make it more intense in terms of the strength element. And so we were looking for the studio to kind of move into that area.
And where you opened the studio, because I imagine that the plan initially was to build up the client base in the boot camp, move into a venue, and then have some of those people come in with you. But your studio is quite far away from where the boot camp was initially. So was that because you just couldn't find a venue where you were, or you wanted to move into that location? Or
well, it's an interesting one, that, because originally we wanted to move it into Brighton, but the cost of opening somewhere in Brighton is huge, due to business rates, rent in general, everything like that. And we did find a big space, but it would have been far too expensive.
I always forget about this. You always remember this.
I know.
It's great.
So there was a big 8,000 square foot space in Bevendine, but obviously we're coming from a boot camp into a giant space.
Yeah.
And at the time I'm thinking, we'll get a big loan, we'll just do it, blah, 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 blah. But thankfully, our business coach, James from FBDA, put a stop to that. And as he calls it, magpie eyes that I quite often get.
Yeah.
Basically anything big and shiny, I'm like, ooh. And he sort of broke down the actual implications of that, and the profit that we would get from that, and made us sort of see the light of we needed to just carry on what we were doing and wait until the right place came along.
And so, because a lot of people will move into a facility without figuring out the fundamentals before moving in, right? Which was potentially what you were going to do before you had that help from James from the Fitness Business Development Academy. So people will move in and they won't have figured out what the expenses are going to be, what their prices need to be, how much they want to make. They just kind of go in with a little bit of guesswork. Whereas having figured that out before, you realized this is going to be a huge project if we need to make it succeed. So to slow down a little bit and actually find something that's going to be more accommodating for the goals that you guys want to achieve as well.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
It's good you guys didn't, I would say, actually move into the Brighton area. And the reason I say this is I live in Brighton, and just the other day I noticed 2 new gyms that they weren't even that new, they were just new to me because I'd never seen them before. But there are so many small gyms in Brighton right now that you just don't know because they're not being marketed that well, but there's a lot around, so there's a lot of competition, but not a huge amount of people that are marketing them super successfully. But so you decided to hold off on the 8,000 square foot space, which is definitely a good move, I believe. And so do you just continue to wait to find, what was the process of finding that right spot?
Well, we did. We continued to keep looking online for places. Places would come up and they would go really quickly as well, because we were coming out of COVID and it was that e-license wasn't there, so you could turn any building into kind of like a fitness place. And we actually realised we were getting quite a lot of people from the Lewes area come all
the way to Brighton.
Yeah, randomly. Yeah. And actually they were quite a high percentage of our boot camp members. And one day we just happened to get a call from an agent and ended up looking at a couple of places in Lewes, and one was this office space.
but still to this day. So Lewes, for anyone that doesn't know, is it a town? Would you? Yeah.
Market.
Yeah. Because I wasn't sure whether to call it a town or village, because it's not a huge population, but it is quite, I'd say, more of an affluent location if you live there. But even to this day, there's not that much competition in Lewes. There might be a couple, but there's nothing crazy going against you guys, right?
Nothing like for like, no.
Yeah, and this going back to moving into a city like Brighton Hove, where there are many gyms, some literally next to each other, personal training studios. That would have been a real uphill battle, increased costs. You guys actually found a patch that was kind of an empty and like an empty space. There's this thing where you have a blue ocean and a red ocean, right? And the red ocean is where there's lots of fish and they've already kind of found a lot of food. And then you got the blue ocean, but it's clear and there's loads of opportunity. And that's kind of what you found in Lewes. Is my perspective. Do you guys feel the same or?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's why we were getting quite a few more members in terms of the boot camps from Lewes to Stamina Park. Over the course of time, nearer towards the end of the boot camps, because the market was so saturated in Brighton with outdoor boot camps, gyms were opening, and we were starting to get less and less people from the actual town willing to come out to Stamina Park, and more people from Lewes. So I guess when there were a couple of places that popped up, it seemed like the right decision.
Nice. And so this was the first, because you're now in a different location. So this was your first spot that you found, and it was much smaller than the place you're in now.
Yes.
Yeah. How big was it?
I guess the main actual sort of gym floor area was probably maybe only 800 square foot. It wasn't big at all, because we had toilets in there that took up space, an office that took up space.
So initially going from the prospect of an 8,000 square foot all the way to a 700, much less exciting by the sound of it, if that makes sense. But that's actually all you needed at that point in time, right, to build a sufficient business. And I think I remember James telling me that he calculated that you only needed around 30 members to be able to be break even and profitable from that launch of the business. Is that correct? Yeah. So like it's finding the right location to get the outcome that you guys want, which is obviously to make a living for your guys selves and be able to help people. But if it was 8,000 square foot, it would have probably been hundreds of members. Whereas with this more moderate space, it was just 30 to be profitable and a good spot there as well.
That was it. And I think the key there was being profitable.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone likes the idea of big shiny things, but then what's the point of being stressed and having this big shiny thing if you're not going to make any money and you can't pay your bills?
Yeah, and you mentioned this a couple of times, that this shiny object syndrome, which I think that all business owners are guilty of having, because they're always looking for the next fix, the next rush of excitement within business. But the reality is that success in business is quite oftentimes doing the very simple, boring things again and again to actually have that success. So rather than looking at the big shiny object, the big exciting thing, focus on one, what's the end outcome that you're looking for in the business, and two, how can the business that you build help fulfill you do that? And that's exactly what this very moderate initial site could help you guys do, right?
Yeah.
And then I believe I was also told that, or I remember speaking to you guys, that even though it was a smaller site, you still wanted to kind of go in guns blazing with all the equipment and all the shiny.
Well, I did.
Yeah.
John's the spender.
Yeah.
In the relationship, for sure.
Yeah. But this is totally normal, right? Especially as someone that's gone, whether it's you guys from boot camp to open a gym, or someone who's been PTing to open the gym. Everyone wants to have their dream gym and fill it with all the equipment they ever wanted to. That's kind of part of the reason why so many people want to get their own gym, is to fill it with all this fun equipment. But I think the question is who is that benefiting? Is it you, or is it actually the consumer? And I think on this time it was maybe you following something that you really wanted.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, realistically, you look at our demographic and that, they don't need all the bells and whistles. We could say to them, oh yeah, we're gonna, I don't know, get the latest, rowing machine, blah, blah, does this, that, and that, and they'll be like, well, what's wrong with the other rowing machine?
Yeah, they wouldn't actually notice the difference.
Yeah,
and it's like if we walk into a gym and we see somewhere with, like let's say Alico plates or some other top tier brand, we would all be really impressed with how good that looks. But to the unsophisticated eye, and especially to someone that lives in a place like Lewes that doesn't even have I don't even think it has really an open gym in Lewes. Is maybe the
cancelled?
Oh, okay, okay, yeah. So the peak standard before you guys went in was a council-run leisure centre. Yeah. So they wouldn't really know the difference if they were to see something that's top tier, right? So yeah, it's all about what area are you in, what are the market used to, and kind of making sure you can adhere to those standards rather than the ones that you might see online or anything like that. So how much did you initially, I think this is really interesting, how much did you initially invest into that first site to get it kind of open in terms of the equipment and the layout?
Ooh, I would say...
Oh, it was 20,000.
About 20,000, yeah.
All the kit and the flooring...
deposits, rent,
20,000.
Yeah, I reckon around that mark.
Nice, and the reason I wanted to highlight that, and I think I may have even mentioned this when on another podcast, is that there's a lot of people that say like you have to go all in, hundreds of thousands of pounds, which is definitely a option if you get investment and you have the cash, but it is still very possible to get out a nice, presentable looking gym on a lower end budget and also be close to profitability moving forward, because then what you can do is you can build up funds from the profit, and then you can then reinvest into the gym over time, which is what I believe you guys have done moving forward. But we can go into that in a little bit later. So we've built out the gym. We've got our kind of first batch of clients. We're running smoothly and things are going okay. But then we kind of have a bit of a business blip. It's more than that, but I'll let you guys tell the story.
Oh, do you wanna go for this one?
So we were in that facility for about, was it a year?
Yeah.
And just being new business owners and not really knowing what a good or a bad contract was. And I'm not saying the contract was bad because it looked fantastic.
Yeah.
It was, we signed a lease where it was like a rolling 3-month sort of lease. So if we wanted out, we would only have to give 3 months notice.
Yeah.
But likewise, if the landlord wanted out, he would only have to give 3 months notice. And you just don't really think about that when you're signing this lease because you're just thinking about the benefits to you.
Yeah, so you guys thought, oh great, if we want to get out, we don't have to wait 5 years. Yeah. We can just do 3 months. And so it's not so lower risk potentially. That's how it potentially looks. But then on the flip side,
absolutely.
Yeah.
It did not work out so well. So then we heard about the fact that this block of offices where our facility was planning on being turned into affordable housing. And we hadn't been notified by the landlord just yet. And it took a while, but we came to realize that it was something that was happening, and we were really going to have to start looking for a different facility. So we've really just, we were still in that first year, just building up our client base, just finding our feet, just starting to pay off what we invested in this small place. And then we're now facing the fact that we are getting kicked out of the property, and we've got to find somewhere new. And then just to throw it into the mix, I was pregnant with the second baby as well.
Yeah.
So it was all very up in the air. We didn't know where we were going, what we were going to do. And we didn't really know whether or not we could fund this next facility.
Yeah. So it's if there was a lesson to anyone listening to this, finding their first facility or looking even maybe for the next one, based on that current thing, what would the lesson be there for you guys? If you could kind of maybe turn back the clock. I know it's all worked out really well actually in terms of where you are now, but it's kind of through it's kind of through a rough patch that you got to a good part.
Yeah.
But ideally maybe you'd have liked to have avoided that. So in hindsight, what do you say the key lessons are from that section?
I would say get a solicitor to properly go through the contract.
Yeah, I just make you aware of what it is, because maybe when you sign up someone on a website, there's long T's and C's, and most people just scroll right to the bottom, right? Yeah. But in a situation like this, just have it read through, know exactly what it is you're getting into. It's going to actually, although it will be a cost, it will be worth that, because the cost the cost for you guys to have to move out after invest will probably massively outweigh what it would have had done to have paid for a solicitor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Which when we moved into the second facility, we did the process the right way, and we got a contract that really worked in our benefit, because we went backwards and forwards. This doesn't work for us. How can we navigate that? And we've got something that's worked really, really well, and it works both for us and also the landlord as well.
Yeah.
So yes, the key lesson would be get your contract checked out thoroughly.
And were you guys able to move in like a nice transition in terms of that 3-month block? You're able to get to a new facility, so there was no crossover between being closed and open up?
So basically, we closed on the Friday.
Yeah.
Gutted everything out, put it in over a weekend, and opened on the Monday.
Oh, wow. So it was a real tight situation. Yeah. It was real close.
But we were lucky because where we had moved into, it was already painted. Internet was in there already. It just needed connecting up. The only thing we really had to do was put the flooring in and just move the equipment in there.
Yeah. And this place, larger and also nicer. And I think the key benefit for this particular location is actually the location.
Yes.
Because beforehand, you were, like many gyms, in a business estate, which are very commonly tucked away.
Yeah.
So, for example, there's a gym down the road, potential personal training, that's been around for over 10 years. I guarantee there's still people in Linfield that don't know it exists, because it's a really nice space, but it's at the very corner of the village. You have to turn around. Like, it's very tucked away. And that's essentially where you guys were as well, right? Tucked away, no one could ever see you. But now you guys are in front of a major supermarket, Tesco's. So you have so much organic, well, I say organic, just like physical traffic going past every single day. And how much of a difference has that alone made?
Huge. So the amount of walk-ins we get is big before we didn't get any. Whereas now we get walk-ins. We get, because of the location where people walk past, when you sort of make that sale call with them, we always ask, oh, do you know where we are? Oh yeah, you're that place next to Tesco's, aren't you?
Yeah.
And that's when you sort of think, we did make the right decision, because we're effectively our own advertising.
Yeah, so a big challenge with so many gyms is how you actually get awareness to the fact that you exist in the area, which sounds like a really simple thing, and so many people assume that everyone knows where they are. But as I mentioned earlier, so many people are tucked away. So sometimes we'll have to create, marketing content literally just to get awareness into the area that this is a gym and here is where it's based, like a very simple concept. But for you guys, that's already taken care of, and people are like, right now as we're recording this podcast, is people driving past and viewing your gym. So it essentially just markets itself because of that fact.
And I think one of the real key things with it is parking in Lewes is, well, there isn't any. It's really expensive, and that, whereas Tesco's car park is 3 hours free parking. And so we're bang in front of the car park with 3 hours free car parking,
Yeah, which is, I would say, parking's an essential one, right? In terms of, like, if you don't have it, it's going to be very difficult for people to come in. Well, actually, Lewes, people can walk, but at the same time, it's just a frustration for some people. Let's say they're going to work or they're coming back from work or whatever it may be. And I think that's like an essential to have that availability for clients coming in, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did, before we were moving, because the rates and the rent on this place were a lot higher. So effectively, I think we were almost doubling our outgoings, which was a huge stretch for us back then. But the way that we looked at it was, because we're in such a good location with so much footfall, that's essentially part of our advertising and marketing cost.
Yeah.
And it brought in more than I really thought it was going to.
Yeah, that's such a great way to rationalise it. Like, this is actually part of the marketing budget. Our rent was a really, really good way. Do you guys have signage outside the gym as well? Have you gone for extra? Yeah.
So we got so the whole unit itself is surrounded in glass, and it's, I don't know, it's effectively 2 stories high, isn't it?
Yeah.
Glass, and then so the entire top part is wrapped in all our graphics and logo all the way around it.
Nice.
So yeah, basically no matter where you are, you can see it.
You can see it there. And that kind of brings me on to my next point, which is I want to talk about marketing, but I want to start off with more local marketing, because you guys don't have you kind of got a great amount of clients for the space you have and the timetable that you have. And I know that you guys, it's more some capacity issues and staff, which we'll go into a little bit later. But like, getting new customers isn't an issue for you guys. Every business owner has issues, but at any one given moment. But for you guys, marketing isn't one of them. And I think what you guys have done really well is something that I've always spoken about, which is getting clients from different locations every single month. So you're not just relying on, let's say, ads, or you're not just relying on referrals. You get a mixture every single month. So if you get less referrals one month, you'll still get some from ads or other avenues, and vice versa. And you guys do a really good job of that. I know that you guys have made a really big effort on your local marketing. So it'd be great to dive into kind of things that you do around the area to get your name and brand out there and get customers through this kind of boots on the ground marketing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's all come from what you've said over the years and sort of just slowly implementing that, and it hasn't been a quick process.
And I think that's a real key phrase. It's slowly implementing it, because this type of marketing that is so valuable when those customers do come in. I know, Emily, we were speaking earlier, and you said, even when we get a website opt-in, they've already known of us from some other avenue, whether it's a member or driving past or whatever it may be. But that is a slow process. It's not an overnight thing. Whereas an ad, you could turn it on and get leads the next day and customers in the same week. But there's this slow process, but it's really worth it once you put the work in. You guys are seeing that reward every single month now, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the key to it is just patience, and really, I can't think of the word. Sort of.
Well, you had to integrate yourself into the local area, right? Because you guys were new to Lewes. It wasn't like you grew up or you lived in Lewes for a few years and you knew people. You didn't actually have a network to rely on, which is actually, many people going in their second location or just in a new location. That's a big challenge. How do you integrate yourself into the community so people know who you are and kind of start from zero, really?
Yeah.
Because again, had you lived there for 10 years, you would have known loads of people and you could have got a bit of a head start there. But This is going in from zero. So what were the things you kind of did to get that ball rolling?
Well, initially it was the school, wasn't it? So just being part of school fates and then giving our front end offer away as raffle tickets, and not just giving one, just giving multiple. Because what we found was when we gave away one, that it might go to someone who's not necessarily going to use it. So give away multiple of your front end offer. For us, it was our 28-day experience, and you might get 1 or 2 take-ups. And we've got members from that. We've got members straight away from that. And just a few days ago, we've got a member that came in and did that from a school fete a year ago, had a great experience, wasn't in the right place to commit back then, but is now starting with us just today.
And it also increases like the awareness from all those parents that have their kids at that school, right? Because your branding will be, whether it's on the materials for the school fete or whatever it is. So again, it's like having your brand associated with the school, and a school is a place where parents have the most trust in, right? Because they literally send their kids there every single day. So it's very powerful to be associated with something. Like, people don't think that deeply about it, right? But when you really look at it, everyone trusts the school, right? No one doesn't trust the school, otherwise we didn't send your kids there. So to have your brand associated with that is very, very powerful from that branding standpoint, but also getting customers, as you said. Yeah. You had the vouchers that you give away. That friend will come in, they'll then tell their other friends, and that person's probably got a network of multiple people who will then tell other people. So there's so many elements to that where that's creating like more marketing awareness for you guys there as well.
Well, I think as well, because we would help out at the school fete, so we would
really
so we would actually go down ourselves, with our branding on.
Nice. Oh, so you guys are your branding today.
So
amazing.
We would take the
do
kids.
Really silly games, like just mainly for the kids, like sponges with water buckets and things like that.
Slap the rat or something like that.
Yeah, to get your kids to run up and down with wet sponges, like
exactly.
Just really simple, not promoting.
Yeah,
we're not there to promote our services at all, and I feel like that builds trust. We're just there, we're just present, and we're keeping things fun, and we've donated to the raffle. That was the very first thing that we got involved with. Then John created some really strong links with Lewes Football Club, and that's been really big for us as well.
Yeah, so we recently, just the other week actually, we sponsored the last match of the season, and what was it? It was against MK Dons, wasn't it? They were playing, and we had, they've got a big LED screen there now at the side of the pitch, and we had one of our guys make up a marketing video that was just running during half time and beforehand, only 20 seconds or so, but it was just enough showing what we did.
Do you guys have a photo of that at all or anything like that?
Do you have video?
Amazing. Well, if you can send it to us afterwards, we'll flash it up on screen there where we can see
brilliant.
that, because that's like it's so good. Like everything you've just said is so great. So going back to the school marketing, like you're not selling anything, but you're building relationships there, right? Like you're spending your time to volunteer at an event. You've got your kids there, so you can just see you guys are just like a family, just like everyone else that's there, right? So it creates connection, and then you're just again building relationships, and people buy from people they connect with and they trust. So even though you being there isn't going to directly get sales the next day, has that contributed to the sales? And the answer is 100% yes. But then go one step further, you've got a dad or a mum or even a family that goes to that school, but then goes to the football match, and they then see this on screen. They then drive to Tesco's and they see you guys there, and you've got all of these like local elements like playing in there, which is awesome.
Well, actually, sort of continuing on as well from that one that we sponsored, we didn't actually sponsor that football match for ourselves. Again, it was we're helping out a charity called Zetetic, who are based in Lewes, and they are doing a charity walk at the end of June. And they came to us for help, basically, with it. Originally, it was just sort of, promoting it to our members and that. But we've ended up getting on with them in the sense of helping them do training walks with our members, but with them as well, helping link up with other businesses and promoting it. But the actual one with Lewes FC that had just gone was to promote the walk that they were doing. So we effectively sponsored it for them to go in as a charity.
Amazing.
Be on the door as people were walking in and promoting the walk whilst trying to get people to sign up for it.
And for me, my takeaway for this is, if anyone listening, like, what can you do to help other communities in your local area and actually contribute and give? Because I talk about business partnerships quite a bit to clients, and I think they're reluctant to do it. And going back to what we said earlier, because it takes a lot of time to be able to put in. You can't just walk up to a school or a business and be like, hey, do you want a partnership? And it works like that. Like, it takes time to integrate and build these relationships. But by you giving to the community, it will come back in return, which it has done for you guys. Is there anything else you guys are working on or done in the community, or are those the main things currently?
I think also when you're doing paid advertising, one thing that we did land on was we advertise at the train station. So it's a digital screen, and we've had people come in saying like, oh, whilst I'm waiting for my train, I just see you pop up there.
Oh, wow, amazing. And we're right by the station.
And it's the London platform as well. So we
It's a busy, and I didn't even mention that because I was just focusing on local, but that's so relevant because you've got, they see you at the school, they see you at the football, they see you at the like literally while they're scrolling on their phone, they see you on a meta ad, whatever. Because even if it's not a sales ad, it's like an awareness ad, they're still seeing you guys there, and it's all like creating these like individual touch points. So you guys are literally hitting it from all angles rather than just one, and that's massively contributing to the success you guys are having, which is awesome. So what I want to move on to next is I want to talk about sales, but before we get to actual sales, I want to talk a little bit about AI, because you guys are, AI is huge. It's up and coming. There's so many different advances, but you guys are utilizing it to assist with your sales right now. So I'd love you to run through what happens when a lead goes to your website and they opt in. Like what happens there?
Well, I think with that AI, the reason why it's so integral to us is because we are busy parents, and that's the thing. And I think any sort of business where sales is at the forefront knows, unless you pick up that phone straight away and call them, that time is ticking and you're going to lose them. And this is where the AI comes in, and this is where we utilize it. So whether it would be through the website or through a meta ad, that lead will go through to the FMA closer system. And depending on the time of day, then the AI will pick up that lead and WhatsApp them a message.
Yeah.
Okay, just a little introductory message. And that conversation will then start. And Mark, as the AI is called.
We love Mark.
We love Mark.
We love Mark, yeah.
Strongest team member.
Yeah. Works 24/7.
Yeah.
So Mark will then basically start asking them the relevant questions and find their pain points and stuff like that. And it's funny because we tend to find people are more open to talking to this AI bot via WhatsApp because they're not talking to someone directly.
Yeah.
He won't make the sale. We would never trust him to make the sale, but we would trust them to build almost a sense of trust that we are the right choice, to then book in a call with either myself or Emily to then dive deeper and make that sale.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been game changing.
And so I think you guys said that on the website about 9 out of 10 people will respond and actually have a conversation and engage there as well.
Yeah.
And
that has steadily built, though. That wasn't always the case. So you've got to give your AI, guy or gal, time.
Yeah.
And the conversations get better and better. And I see now we're getting more and more insights in terms of what the member is looking for, their pain points. So you're going into the call having a really good idea or a sense of what that person is looking for. So you kind of know which direction the call is going to go in.
It's really incredible. And so something else that I think is, you mentioned that the prospect wants to speak, is happy to speak to AI rather than a human and have those conversations. And then you even referred to the AI as him.
Yeah.
And this is, it's only going to continue in this direction, is my prediction, in terms of humans feeling more comfortable actually speaking to an AI and it getting a response. Because I use ChatGPT every single day now for various things, whether it's work or personal. I'll ask it questions and it will spit it back. I asked it to, I'm starting to cut for, I've got a wedding coming up. I'm starting to cut. And I just gave it all my information. I was like, can you give me back my macros and what I need to do? And it did it. And then I was like, thank you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't, yeah, that's it. So like, didn't need to say thank you or didn't need to say please or any of this. But as I communicate for various things, I'm humanizing the conversation. And kind of, this is going to sound very bizarre, but there's like almost a slight connection between the AI person that I'm having a conversation with, even though it's not actually a person. And it's only going to move more in this direction. So yeah, it's as you said, it's a game changer. Speed to lead as well. The fact that like if you leave your leads 24 hours, they could be gone.
Yeah.
Because people see an ad or they go to the website with a burst of inspiration. And after they opt in, life happens, right? They go to work, they, maybe they have an argument with their partner or they just have a bad day or whatever. All of a sudden their inspiration's dipped. But if you can catch them straight at the point and get them to the next touch point, you have a much higher chance of converting them. And I can't remember the stat, but it's like, I think it's hundreds of percent points higher your chance of closing them if you get hold of them within the first few minutes versus an hour or 24 hours or however long that is. And the last thing I wanted to say was, you mentioned that you've got to give it time. And this is very, very true, because AI gets smarter with the data that you feed it. So when you first roll out the bot, you may see a couple of conversations that are a little bit maybe tone deaf is maybe the right word to use. And an example I gave you guys was when we first started rolling this out, we had a client use it and a prospect came back and they said, sorry for the late reply, I was at a relative's funeral or something along the lines. And the AI just went, okay, great. And then like it just completely missed the mark. And you look at the messages and you wince a little bit because you're like, oh no. But with anything, you have to have a little bit of kind of micro failure to be able to refine and make it better. You can't just go from 0 to amazing.
Yeah.
And you guys have done that and let it learn, and now it's having better. Do you think the conversations are better than it was when it first started?
Oh, God, yeah.
Massively. If we saw a conversation and we thought it wasn't going very well and we had the opportunity, we would jump in either by text, or if we could, we'd try and call.
But then we would also message you guys
and be like, hey, this is what's happened, and we can look at it and actually tell it to not, respond in a different way to how it is, basically, and kind of feed back these inputs to make it even better.
I mean, I think maybe a couple of months ago, I sent a message to you guys because it was getting a bit too sort of pally with people.
Yeah.
And a bit too
casual.
A bit too casual and keen. and so we're like, we need to just
calm down there. Yeah. But yeah.
Again, that was just how the AI had learned over time, because it didn't always do that. It just started doing that through a learning process.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It developed a little bit of a personality based on all of the feedback there. And I think we probably need to do a separate podcast on AI as a whole, but there's so much coming up that's super exciting. And I think that if you're a gym owner, there's a lot to lean into right now, because this is just one example and there's definitely going to be more. And I would say don't be afraid of it. Just at the end of the day, it's a tool. And as long as you know how to use the tool, then you can make it work for you rather than against you. So there's a lot of exciting things coming in that regard of things. So they then book a call, and that's via like a calendar link. And so how do you sell the prospects is it consultation, one call close? What's your process? And
it depends, doesn't it?
Yeah, it depends. We'll always try and go for the one call close, to be fair.
Yeah.
But if they're sitting on the fence, we'll both try and not let them get away without booking them in for something to get them into the studio, and it usually is a trial session. So if they don't want to sign up on the day for whatever reason, they're sitting on the fence, they're not too sure, before we end the call, it's like, why don't you just come in for that trial session? And then usually they'll convert from that trial session.
And that's really great, because sometimes people are too rigid with their sales process. So let's say you just religiously just did the one call close. You probably lose sales because you wouldn't be willing to book them in for a consultation or let them have a trial session. But you have to run through the steps first, because as you said, most people will probably just sign up on the phone, right? Or a good portion of them. But some people, and very, I think kind of rightfully so, might be a bit skeptical about giving their card information over the phone for whatever reason. There's so much stuff happening in today's world. So if there is someone like that, like, why not say, hey, just come in and meet us and make sure we're real, and you can come and see us in person, then pay. And then even then, if someone's skeptical, then you lower it down again, like the kind of barrier to entry to a trial session.
Yeah,
no, exactly. I think it, like you said, it's trust. It's trust, and people want to make sure it is the right thing for them a lot of the time, and it tends to be the ones who come through meta ads, because obviously they aren't as hot, they aren't as ready.
That walks in or versus a referral. Yeah,
exactly. And it's okay. How do you then prove to them that you are the right choice for them? Because it's all good telling them on the phone, hitting their pain points and that, but there'll still be those people who are like, oh, I'm not sure. Is this the right thing? Am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And it's getting them in and being part of something with a load of people going through that, for them to go, oh, hang about, all these other people, they're going through it too, and they're here and they're loving it. Actually, this is the right thing for me.
And they can see that it's people just like them that are training there as well. And I think you guys have done quite a good job, because even at the start of this podcast, you said people in their 40s, 50s and 60s and even beyond that, right? And from my perspective, that's a sensible tactical choice, because Lewes doesn't have a huge young population, right? Because most people that are, if you grew up in Lewes, you're moving out of Lewes, or you're going to London or something like that. So there's not a huge amount of 30-year-olds or 20-year-olds just hanging around, right?
No, and people who did grow up in Lewes who've then moved back in their 40s.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
and,
they've kind of come back to have a family, and do all that stuff. So and the reason why this interlinks to what we're speaking about, because I kind of flip back, but whoever you're speaking to will fall into the bracket of people that are already in the gym, because you've established who that audience is. So once they do that trial session, they can go, oh yeah, look, they're literally just like me, and like same ability, same body type, same age. And that can kind of help build more trust, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people that we speak to on the phone are really intimidated by gyms. They've never been to a gym before. They're in that older demographic where they know that they need to be doing some kind of strength training now, but they have no idea where to start. And they're not quite sure that actually is something that they want to do. They know it's something that they need to do, but they're not quite sure whether actually it's the right fit for them. So I think bringing them in, they can see that they're surrounded by people who are exactly the same, and it's a really non-intimidating, supportive space, and they feel comfortable, and we build their confidence in that very first session.
Is there anything you do differently in the first session for someone that hasn't signed up? Because there's also, you don't want to beast them, right? You don't want them in a lot of pain or sweating or feeling uncomfortable. And typically speaking, that first session might be quite hard for someone that may have been quite sedentary, hasn't done anything for a while. So is there anything in particular, because you're still selling during that process, so do you have any things that you'll make sure to do different in that process versus normal, or just deliver the same service?
We would deliver the same service, but we would tend to look at partnering them up with a more experienced, very chatty member. Like we've got some members who we know, okay, let's put them with them because we know that they will look after them and make them feel like this is where they should be. And also making them aware, if there is anything you don't feel comfortable doing, let the coaches know and we can regress it and we can change it up, because that's the whole point. It's small group personal training, but it is still personal training. So it is still your workout. So
you've got kind of like almost like an ambassador in the gym that's going to help that person along and be chatty and just be like, oh yeah, I remember my first time and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I think that's a really good piece of advice. And do you let the client know beforehand that, we're going to partner you up with this person, or is it more organic and natural, would you say?
Organic.
Yeah.
More organic, because you never know who's going to be there on the day. And there will be a coach. So there's usually 2 people on shift, and there'll be one coach that would probably look after that member a little bit more, just making sure that they are doing everything safely, giving them that little bit more attention, just really showcasing the difference between, a personal training session and an average gym class that you're going to.
Yeah, and the awareness, especially in your location, must be quite low in terms of what a small group personal training gym is actually like, because as you said, the only other gym is like a council run leisure centre. So let's say someone does know they need to do resistance training and they start off there, they have a terrible experience, or they just have one where they don't know what they're doing, they don't keep it up. And then that's the perception in their mind of what it's going to be like. So they have no idea of how it actually is with you guys versus anyone else. So there's a very good reason for their trust to be lower before them coming into the gym.
Well, I think that's a really good point, because a few months ago we had a walk-in and she had been to the local council gym, and she said the first thing that hit her was the smell. That's what she said, and it put her off.
Yeah.
And she came into ours, and it's big, airy, the aircon units are on, so it's all fresh in there and that. And it completely changed her perception of it. And yeah, she's loving it. And again, she's a lady in her 60s, because, that is that.
She never really lifted before either.
Never.
Yeah.
Never. Most of the people that come into us, that they look at like a squat rack or something like that, wouldn't go near it.
Yeah, if they were on their own, they would never go near a squat rack.
Yeah. We've got one lady who, she broke her wrist. We healed it, we built the strength back up in it, and now she benches, and she's in her late 60s.
Yeah, it's brilliant seeing these people who've never stepped inside a gym before, never done any strength training, benching, deadlifting, back squatting, with decent weight as well.
I always find it remarkable, and I'm always consistently surprised. I always take for granted how much knowledge people have in the fitness industry versus people that are unsophisticated, because as you said, like they would have never ever used a squat rack or never done any of these movements, and now they are, which is amazing. My partner, who's a personal trainer, she was telling me that one of her clients was in a commercial gym, couldn't get on a piece of equipment, and was like really upset about that process. And it's such a reminder of how scary going to a gym is for pretty much any single normal person. Like it's an absolutely terrifying process. And for that client there, I'm just assuming now, but the thought of her going up to that person and asking when they're going to be, all of that is a massive thing in their mind, right? So to be able to understand that, I think is very powerful, because you actually realize how scared prospects are. And then when it comes to the sales process, whether it's speaking to them or actually running through this session, you can just make it such a seamless process and give them that experience that they've never ever had before. Speaking of the service, how many members of the team do you guys have at the moment?
So at the moment, we've got 4 who are solid sort of main
coaches there.
Coaches, and then we've got a couple of sort of people who will come in to cover.
Nice.
When there's holidays or illness.
And do you know roughly what the retention is of? Actually, before I do, I want to circle back into sales. What you sell them into a front end offer, and what's the price of that front end offer?
So the front end offer is $199 for a 28-day experience.
Perfect.
And then after that, they go into either 107, 214, or 3.
And do you guys do a resale, or do you just roll them in afterwards?
We do a resale, actually, which has worked for us. Doing the rolling, it has been something we have sort of thought about and considered, but we've recently done a lot of changes. So we've just raised our prices last week, and we'd recently changed our new booking app. So it's one of those we don't want to overload
too many. What, don't tell me who you were with, but who have you moved to? Okay.
Legit Fit.
Okay, nice. Yeah. So well, so nice, because Legit Fit are our partners at FMS. I promise I did not do that on purpose to anyone that's listening to that. But Legit Fit are great guys, and and would highly recommend. So what? Just to go back to where I was, because I was trying to get the front end offer. Where retention wise, what retention levels are kind of on a monthly basis, or attrition rates are?
So at the moment we are 98%.
Nice, amazing,
very good on our monthlies.
Yeah,
which is good.
And what is it you guys are doing to keep the retention there? Like, is there any processes you have in place on a weekly, monthly basis just to make sure that the clients are happy and you're keeping retention where it needs to be? Is there anything specifically that you're doing with the team, or check-ins, or like what does that process look like for you guys?
So everyone that steps through the door, so when they come in, they do that front end offer. We have a chat with them. We see what sessions across the week they're going to be doing, and we pair them with a coach that they're going to be seeing on a regular basis, and that coach is there for the 28 days and beyond.
So there's one coach that will look after that new person,
set of people.
They're kind of assigned their group of people to look after for front end offers specifically.
Well, and then if they continue on a monthly membership, they'll look after that member for the lifespan.
Okay. So they're kind of so every coach is assigned a member, and they've got their own like patch of members there, basically.
Absolutely. And so that coach is in charge of making sure that member's having a good experience, checking in, whether it's 4, 6, or 8 weeks, depending on what the member would like. Depending on whether that member would like to have a 3D body scan, or perhaps it's just a 15-minute coach's check-in every 4, 6, or 8 weeks, just to have a check-in, see how they're finding the sessions, what's going well, what's not going well, are they being consistent? If not, how can we help? Is there anything in particular that they might need help with outside of the sessions? So nutrition, or setting some sort of a step count goal to that relates to their specific goals. So it's very personalized, and each coach has up to 40 members that they look after. And that looks differently in terms of the front end offer. So it's a check-in and a coach's goal setting session at the very beginning of that 28 days, a check-in afterwards, perhaps another scan to check in with their process. And then when they're a monthly member, it really is just down to the member how often they want that check-in.
Yeah, because you don't want to necessarily force a check-in when someone doesn't want a check-in. Because I've worked with only 2 online coaches. I know this is a little bit different, but I've worked with 2 online coaches, and one of them, I felt like very much a chore to do the check-in process. Like, I had to do a call. The call's on a Sunday. And I was just like, I don't really, do you know what I mean? That's the feeling I had. I had a lot of resistance to the process, even though I was paying for the process. Whereas the last one I did, it was like, do you need a call? And I was like, nope, I'm all good. Or maybe it'd be like, yep, I do. So it's kind of like, did you have that process with current members, or like giving them the check-in based on where they're at?
Yeah, absolutely. Some members want that check-in every 4 weeks, and I have a handful that I still look after, and there are a handful of people that just really like that regular check-in every 4, 6 weeks, and there are some people that are just fine. They just want to go to the sessions, enjoy it,
and just do a bit of movement. Absolutely. And they're okay. So and how do you do that from like a program point where you got some people that may want a PB or progress, and as you said, some people that just want to tick the boxes, right?
I think that comes down to our demographic.
Yeah.
Again, because we, predominantly do 40 plus, then, there isn't
a huge amount of people that are going for the big PBs.
Yeah. And there will be, some members who want to do a PB, but it wouldn't be like a big thing. It's just their own sort of thing. And we've got, check-in sheets that we use when doing the sessions. So everyone writes down their weights that they've done and stuff like that. So they can always see that they're, progressing week on week, sort of month on month.
So I actually want to go back to about this core audience, 40 plus people, is because there's always there's a lot of gym or people I've spoken to where they're in a similar size location, whether it be in the UK or another country, and they pick the audience that they want to serve. So they're like, we only work with people that do this, this, and that. And it's like, well, it's going to be a bit of a challenge where you're based. Whereas you guys haven't gone, who do we want to work with? You guys have gone, who are in the marketplace that need help? And that's why you guys had success. Because had you maintained your, we're OCR or obstacle course racing, and we want to do an obstacle course racing gym inside Lewes, I doubt you'd have the success or the price point that you'd be able to do now, because there's very few people in Lewes that are interested in that. I think there was an OCR gym, but I don't think there was. Yeah. And was being the definitive word within that statement there. But it was quite a cool place. I've been there. But again, like, there's not a mass market for people that want to do monkey bars and, you know, all of and rings and all of that sort of stuff there. But back into the service. So you said that most people don't want to do PBs, but is there a way that you do structure the sessions to make sure they are still getting progress, to get that feeling of achievement at the same time?
Yeah, so as a team of coaches, we'll all come together and we write the programs together. And
so you guys and the coaches all create the programs. So it's not one person does it. It's you all collectively have a conversation of what. Yeah. So we'll have one person create the structure, and then we'll all come together as a team, as a collaborative, and put our own insights into it. Or we see that members are struggling in this particular area of strength. Perhaps this could be our focus area for the next 12 weeks. Or this movement pattern seems to be, you know, people aren't connecting with this movement pattern. Let's work on this movement pattern. That can be a focus point, as well as working full body across that 12 weeks. And then in order to keep the members sort of engaged and motivated with their workouts, we have log sheets, and we do encourage people to write down their weights. Everything's it goes to time, because it just keeps the class connected. Yeah.
Also, no one's having to keep up with other people, and it just runs a lot smoother. But people can log their weights, and then the coach can check in and say, oh, you've been doing that for quite a while. Perhaps it's time to step it up a little bit. Would you be comfortable? And then set sort of mini goals with those individuals in the session.
Yeah.
It's not like a rigid goal. It's
not
you forcing them to set something that they don't want to. It's like, oh, okay, I can see this could be something you could improve on, or there's opportunity for improvement there. Shall we work on that over the next 4 weeks? Yeah,
it sounds like all going back to that individualized process that you mentioned at the start. So, you know, I do small group next door, and I'll be lifting a weight, and they'll do a set, and they'll be like, I think you can go a little bit up there. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Kind of like half reluctantly kind of being like, okay, but actually that's kind of what you do, right, to give them that little bit of process. Yeah. It sounds very similar with what you guys are doing there. So when you were in your first small location, it was just you guys there, right? There wasn't a staff member, or maybe one staff member?
We did have a staff member.
Yes. And that was the first staff member, which is good, like because I'm glad to this reaction, because like this is the kind of where I wanted to go. Now you have 4 team members and some part-time people, and it sounds like there were some trials and tribulations along the way of moving into a management or leadership role and finding the right staff there as well. So with this first person, what were the challenges that you had and lessons that maybe you learned along the way?
Well, I think because they weren't full-time.
Yeah.
They had other commitments.
Oh, this is a classic one, right? Where they've got one foot in the door, but one foot out.
Yeah.
So they're covering sessions, but they've really got their own agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would be a case of, oh, I can't do this week because I've been offered this bit of work instead.
I see. Yeah. So they were they self-employed?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got you. But again, it sounds like a little bit like the benefit sounded good for you guys initially. Self-employed, don't need to hire them. It's what works for us, but actually then you see the other benefit from their side that is detrimental to the system there. But obviously this is the very first person you ever hire, right? So it's just learning lessons. But I would always advise against having that person that's not bought into the business, because again, like they want to build their own thing basically. So it might be helpful for a little bit. But and is that what you guys found? Did they just end up heading off, or?
Yeah, basically I think it was kind of a mutual sort of.
Yeah, it was very mutual, and I think sort of conflicting ideas. You know, that person wanted to coach exercises a certain way, and we now created the Go Fitness signature session, and we want things coached our way, and that's how we're sort of developing our team, is how to deliver, a unified session across the week. And that's what we've really learned, is actually leading the team. Whereas like that, for the very first couple of people that we took on, our interview process wasn't very strong at all. And we just weren't really thinking about, is this person the ideal fit for Go Fitness? Do they have the longevity that we need them to have within?
And what was the interview process, and what is it now in comparison?
Well, the first interview was just a friendly.
Yeah.
And now it's a little bit more professional.
Big process.
Yeah, sort of, that very first interview, and then a second and third interview, and then shadowing sessions and watching them coach sessions, and do they have the energy? Do they have like the potential to be able to coach a Go Fitness signature session?
I think in reality, sort of before it was like a conversation and a coffee, whereas now it's a 6-month process, because they're still within that 6 months.
So even when they're hired, they're still in the hiring process. Yeah. So it's not like they're hired, that's it, done. You're looking at it far further ahead.
And it's not until that 6-month review that they're then in the safe zone.
Yeah, I gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. So they'll meet with you a number of times beforehand. So they'll have an initial conversation and they do a trial session, did you say?
Yes. So they'll have that initial interview, and we'll just kind of get an understanding of who they are, what they're about, where their passions are. And then we'll get them into studio to see if what they've been saying aligns with how they deliver a session. So they'll shadow a session, and then we'll want to see them take part in a session and sort of see them go and coach people. How are they doing that? Are they sort of standing in one spot and not making eye contact and just sticking with one person, or are they able to hold the room? And, even when they're feeling nervous, are they able to hold the room? Are they able to be confident? Because that's what the members are going to be looking for. Yeah.
And now since that process, you've now got 4 members of staff and a couple of part-time people as well. What would you say the biggest kind of leadership lessons you guys have learned versus, initially having those first couple of people where it almost sounded like they were trying to tell you how to do program the sessions or how they wanted it, and there was a bit of conflict where it should really never be at that point, right, where they're trying to, it's like it almost seems like potentially like authority wasn't established maybe at the start, potentially
100%
in a respectful way.
Absolutely. Because my background is just a one-on-one PT. I'm just a coach. I've never really been a business owner or a team leader. So I think with every year or with every development within the business, you then have to go back and teach yourself how to, be in that role. So you have to learn how to step into those shoes. So, and where you fall short, those are your learning curves.
I want to move on to a topic that will be relevant for quite a few people, actually, but because obviously you guys are business partners, but you're also in a relationship. You've also got 2 kids. So you do pretty much everything together all the time, right? Have you ever found any, challenges, and how do you balance that and kind of keep that relationship in a good place? And again, I'm sure there are some trials and tribulations like in any relationship, but how do you guys kind of find that balance between business and life? And I'll hand it over to you guys there.
I mean, it's hard because when you are running a business and that's kind of all you're doing, that's all you've really got to talk about, if you see what I mean. And when things are stressful and things are hard, it can create those tensions, because the person you want to have a moan to is effectively you're moaning to your wife or your husband, your partner, but they're also your business partner. So in theory, it's almost like you're bad-mouthing your business to them, if you see what I mean. So that, that is hard. And it's taken us a lot of years to...
Yeah, I think we're still finding it. There's pros and there's cons. The pros are that you're in it together, basically. You're growing this thing together, and it's really exciting. And you understand the stresses, you understand how much work that goes into it. The cons are you're just living and breathing it 24/7.
Yeah.
And there is no go back home, decompress from work, because work might be on one person's mind, and then you'll start piping up about it at 9 p.m. in the evening, and the other person's like, I don't want to hear about this. So it's always about finding boundaries, trying to keep those boundaries. We might set boundaries, then we forget about those boundaries. It's a learning curve. And I think our working relationship has definitely improved from that first year, because you have to understand, like, a new level of respect. You know, when it's your spouse and you're working with that person, your expectations are so high. So when someone messes up, you would speak to that person that you wouldn't actually speak to a staff member.
Like, because you've got a more intimate relationship, right? So you would talk to them.
You would talk to them on an emotional level rather
than on like a staff professional level. So actually, do you think you guys have had to work out how to almost be more professional to each other in a work sense?
I would say we're still working out. I don't think, to be honest, I don't think we will. I don't think we will, because we're married.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We're not. I don't think we will ever talk to each other on a professional level in that sort of setting.
I do think we have each other's backs. More. So when someone messes up, rather than sort of, God, I can't believe you've done that, blah blah blah. Now you're like, it'll be okay. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. So I think there's definitely development from the first year. But you're right. There's always going to be an emotional aspect coming into.
Yeah, and it's always something I think to figure out, right? Because as life goes on and kids grow up, there's always stages that change, right? So it's not like a simple binary process of here's a checklist of what to do and everything's going to be okay. It's kind of a thing that you figure out along the way and learn lessons and kind of get bigger on there as well.
Oh, completely. I mean, even just with childcare, there's that sort of thing of, okay, who's going to take the kids to swimming tonight? Who's going to be doing this? Who's going to, who's going to be working on the business? Who's going to be looking after the kids?
Yeah.
It's one of those. I mean, even just yesterday, I was busy writing the hours that I was going to work so that you could rework your hours for you to work.
Yeah. It's a constant work. It's
that's it.
Work in progress, and I think just understanding that kind of helps. Not putting too much pressure on. Like, we've got to keep things professional. We've got to keep those boundaries. We're both going to slip up at some point.
Yeah, it's kind of understand, but it's okay if someone drops the ball in one element, right? Because you guys are. You run the business, you're also parents, and all that other stuff there as well. And have you guys been able to, because you've got 4 members of staff, like, are you able to sometimes disconnect from the business and just have a little bit of time out to have a little bit of have a bit of a breather?
I think now, when we started, no, not really. I think now, I mean, there was a point a few months back where you were taking Wednesdays off to have a bit of time to yourself.
Yeah, I managed 2 to 3 Wednesdays. I created this, like, right, okay, new year, new set of, like, work-life balance. And I created this, wake up and do what you want Wednesdays. But, it doesn't always work out that way. And I think just being fluid with your intentions as well takes the stress off. Well, that Wednesday was supposed to be reserved for my yoga session or my DIY or whatever. But the fact is, I enjoy what I do. I'm really passionate. So I don't mind.
Yeah, it's not
actually on a day that I wanted off.
Yeah, it's not something that you're trying to get away from, right? Because it's a thing that you guys enjoy working on and enjoy helping people and enjoy building this community that you guys have done as well. And the last thing I want to talk about is you guys have been working with Fitness Business Development Academy for, I think, the same amount of time as us, really, for a number of years. I just wanted to ask you guys, like, how they have helped you with the business, because obviously with us it's marketing, but with them it's a completely different element of the business. And I think that if you didn't get the help from them, the business wouldn't look like it is today. So, but it'd be great to hear from you guys, like, how they have helped you.
Basically, the numbers.
Yeah,
it is all about the numbers, and it's keeping us accountable to making sure that we're tracking the numbers, make sure we're forecasting the numbers, knowing what money we have available, and making the right choices based on that.
Yeah.
And as well as that, having the experience, and not just sort of from James, who's our coach, but sort of the wider community. I had a conversation with Jack Woolley not so long ago about staffing and things like that. And I think that has really sort of aided us as we've gone through of making those right decisions. You know, knowing what other people have gone through, getting advice from them, but getting advice, you know, from James, from Nikki, you know, from Barry, from Maxine, you know.
Yeah, I think it's having that outside perspective, because when you're in the business, everything it can feel all-encompassing, and sometimes you can be a bit reactive to situations, and it's quite nice to have someone on the outside just shedding a little bit of a different perspective on things, and getting you to take a deep breath and actually, this is what's going on. Actually, it's not so bad. Look at the numbers, still doing well. We've got this obstacle. How are we going to navigate it? And so, yeah, there's the biggest thing is the numbers, because knowing where you're going is so important, and that can help you de-stress as well, in terms of how you're viewing how your business is going. But then also having the advice from people who've got so much experience in the industry, that have gone through what you've been through, and can give you some really, really good advice, and you can chat through things to basically find the best outcome.
Yeah, I would liken it to like having a board member, if you see what I mean. That sort of outside person with an unbiased view who's not emotionally connected.
Yeah.
Who can say, you know, calm down, it's all right, you know, we'll do this, rather than...
Or they can be like, what was your thinking behind this decision right here? And they go, well, probably not the best decision. And you can go, like, okay, yeah. And yeah, I really like that analogy. It's like a board member that you've got where you can meet up and they can hold you accountable to the things that you said that you were going to do. And, you know, if they weren't done, why not? What's stopping you? And actually figure that out. And I think also the numbers are like the least fun part, but also the most important part of business. And so many business owners just aren't checking them. And the only time they do is once a month when the accountant has a meeting, which isn't actually super helpful to not look at it. You know, like some people will weigh themselves every single day to track the progress of like their weight loss or their calorie deficit or whatever, but they'll then not look at the finance of their business for an entire month or even longer sometimes. Whereas I imagine you guys are weekly checking what's going on in terms of cash flow forecast. And
yeah, I tend to check it sort of bi-weekly, sort of every 2 weeks. Just to sort of see where we are. But I will plan we will plan sort of 3 months ahead. Yeah. If you see what I mean. So we will forecast 3 months ahead.
Oh, so you know 3 months ahead roughly where the business is going to be cash flow wise.
Yeah, sort of where we want it to be, what our targets are going to be, and sort of planning, you know, that quarter and what our end for that quarter should be looking like.
Yeah.
You know, so we'll break it down with James, like we'll do what we want the year to look like. And then
what we really getting ahead there as well.
Yeah.
Rather than just like, I want to make this and there's nothing else, you're really mapping out exactly where you want to be and what it's going to take to get there from start to finish.
Yeah. So we do the year, then each quarter, and then each quarter we break down into each month.
Yeah. So it just sounds like you get a real roadmap of what you need to do to get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
Versus just plucking something out of thin air and trying to guess where you're trying to go to.
Exactly. Because, you know, you reverse engineer it effectively.
And also, it's really motivating as a business owner, rather than just thinking, I want to hit this target this month or this quarter. It's like, what's the big goal? Okay, by end of the year, this is the big goal. And then you're kind of breaking it down. And it's even more exciting if you're at the end of the quarter and then you're further ahead. You're like, that big goal is actually well within our grasp. Or if things aren't going so well, like, what can we do to really push through and achieve that? So it's motivating.
And I think, you know, each month, our revenue's grown. You know, there hasn't been a month where we've dipped out of there. So, you know,
every single month it's just got, wow.
And, you know, April, we didn't even do any sort of meta ads.
Yeah.
I mean, we did, you know,
use like awareness stuff, but no direct sales. Yeah.
And, you know, and we still hit our targets.
Nice. And are the FBDA team making sure you're at a good profit margin as well?
Yes.
Nice. Do you want to share like what the rough percentages of?
It's come down a little bit just because we basically pumped a load of money into sort of various things, such as, you know,
like investing back into the gym essentially.
Yeah.
But I think that's, you know, you can do that now, whereas, you know, beforehand when it was like invest in, you know, when I was talking about, you could invest hundreds of thousands of pounds or start off quite conservative, build up, and then use the profits to reinvest into the gym. But if you weren't in that process of investing into the gym, what would it be on a typical, would you say?
Oh, typical. So because the sheets are all done differently now because the dividends are all spread out. So after our dividends come out, we were sitting at about 14%.
Okay, and that's after you
that's
guys.
After the dividends.
That's after owner compensation.
Yeah.
Okay, nice, amazing. So you're in line with where Nikki likes it to be, which I think is
20%.
Yeah. Amazing, awesome. Well, look, guys, thank you so much for being on the podcast, sharing your story and sharing your lessons. There's going to be so much for people to take away, and thank you for being FMA clients as well. It's been great to see your journey from a boot camp to location 1 to where you guys are now, and just absolutely smashing it. And all the best moving forwards as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.